Lee, welcome to the show today.
Thanks. So happy to be here with you.
Guys, Lee is a really good friend of mine. I've known Lee for a while, and he's just got such an interesting story. I can't wait to hear more about it and share it with you guys, have him share it with you guys. So, uh, Lee, you at one point decided that you wanted to start a dance business, which is super interesting. Tell us a little bit about that, how that got going for you.
Well, sort of. That's my official answer. Sort of. My wife actually started our dance business, and she started that 29 years ago. I met her. I think it's been 23 years now that we've known each other. And as soon as I met her, I was a lighting guy for rock concerts and theater shows and stuff like that. And we met at an event that she was hired from the dance studio to do, and she said, "Hey, I see you doing all this production work. We've got a dance recital coming up. Would you be able to help me out?" And she's cute. So I said, "Yeah, I'll do whatever you ever want," which is a phrase that she still reminds me of like every day almost. She's like, "You said that you do whatever I ever want." So I didn't set out to start a dance business. I didn't start out to, like that wasn't my calling in life or anything like that. But once I met her, I could sort of see the vision, see the purpose that she had for this. And I said, all right, I want in. And I started hanging out there, and thankfully I was able to kind of to really spread the gasoline with that, and spread the flame there, and really accelerate the growth that she had already started without me.
Wow. So you kind of helped, you got into her business, and
Mhm.
you were in a few ways. And then and then you said, let me see what we can make this. So what happened when you guys started working together on it? Um, where did it go?
Was it started, she had rented, before I met her, she had rented one dance room, one dance studio, and the lobby. And then very soon after that, she added on a second room and added on a little more square footage sort of thing. And so she had to have somebody else teaching at the same time as her, which was kind of cool. And then could do all sorts of different things, like put siblings in different classes and stuff like that. And I just came along, and at that time, like my first day, the office manager like walked off the job, like just kind of left. It was the mom of a dancer, and so she was like, "Oh, I'm out of here." So she leaves, and Stephanie, my wife, is sort of sitting there like, "Oh crap, what am I going to do now? Now I'm going to have to answer the phone." And I'm like, "Well, I'm between lighting gigs, because if I didn't have to go do a concert that night, like I don't have anything to do." And so I sat at the desk and I would just answer the phone. And it was really funny because it was very much on the job training. I got a phone call, and it's like, "Do you have classes for a 5-year-old?" And I looked around and I saw the schedule. I'm like, "Yeah, we got classes." And like, "What kind of classes?" And I'm like, "Hold on a second." And I like put the phone on hold and ran into the dance room. And I'm like, "What classes do we offer for a 5-year-old?" And Stephanie told me the information. And I came back to the phone. I'm like, "Oh yeah, we've got hip hop, we've got ballet, we got tap, we got jazz, we got all these things." And they said, "Great. When are they?" I'm like, "Hold on a second." And I ran to the other room and like, what would be good? So I figured that out pretty quickly about how to read the schedule and what that looked like. And then I'm sitting there, and somebody called and said, "Do you sell tap shoes?" And I'm looking around, and I look in this closet, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, there's boxes of tap shoes here." And they're like, "Do you have a size 10?" And I'm like, "Yeah, there's a size 10 right there." And sure enough, they came in, I sold the tap shoes. And like that night, I'm like, "What? Now I'm out of size 10s." And Stephanie said, "We call the manufacturer every night and leave a voicemail on the answering machine to say we need more size 10 tap shoes." And so every night I would call in an order for like 3 pairs of shoes or whatever we sold that day. And I started saying, let's stock up on inventory. Let's add and have 2 pairs of size 10 tap shoes, so that I don't have to call every night and get a small box every day, sort of thing. And so we just kind of grew organically like that. It was very much a lot of word of mouth. There was a lot of just who knows what's gonna be the next thing that shows up at the front door, but we're ready for it, and we will accommodate no matter what.
So at some point, it's incredible. So you kind of built, and by the way, Cherry Creek Dance is now like a staple in Denver, right? Like it's just if you're going to get dance lessons, you're going to Cherry Creek. Uh, but at some point in this process, you're like learning how to run a business.
Yeah.
Um, you found your purpose. And
Mhm.
what Lee does, guys, he's helped a lot of people find their purpose in life, including myself. And so I'm just curious, how did you find that? And then what is your purpose?
Oh, great question, and probably my favorite question ever, really. So the reason why I get out of bed each and every morning is so I can go and create art, and I use that art so that everyone can discover their own inspiration, love, and greatness, whatever that looks like. And that's going to be super unique to each and every person, just like you. And it is to everybody that's out there too. That purpose is so different for each and every person. And that's part of what makes you who you are today. It was a journey for me to find mine. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what I should be looking for. I didn't realize that that was a thing I should be thinking about or concentrating on or anything. And I heard a great speaker, Simon Sinek, who's a friend of mine now, and he talked about this, and I just sat there after he was done speaking. I called Stephanie and I said, we are going about this all wrong. And she said, what do you mean? Like, what speech did you hear today? Like, what are we supposed to do? What's the new thing that we're supposed to implement because of, whatever speaker you heard at whatever conference you're at? And I started laughing. I said, no, this one feels different. And I asked her, I said, why do you do what we do? And she said, huh, I don't know. I just want to teach dance. And I said, yeah, but why? What goes along with that? And so we had a huge discussion, and I was scribbling down notes the entire time. And basically that's what we came up with. And so that's our goal at Cherry Creek Dance. It's our goal is not to, yeah, we train dancers, people that want to go on to have professional careers, and got people on Broadway and in music videos, and all across the country, and professional dance team members like NFL, NBA, that sort of stuff. And we train a lot of those people. But equally as excited about the people that we train that want to take one dance class a week for 10 years. So my goal is that I can help foster a love of arts in each and every person. And for some, that looks a little different than others, and that's cool. And others want to be way into it and do this as a life. And some just want to, instead of going to the gym 3 days a week, they go to dance class, and that's cool too. So whatever that art looks like for you, that's what I want to inspire you to do. And that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. And when I do that, it's pretty awesome. And that's how we met. And by the way, I think we've only known each other for like a year, like less than a year.
Doesn't feel like it.
I know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Turns out when we talk about these deep purpose things, and we have these conversations that are all around this and about our values and what those look like and how we can utilize those, instead of just how do I hire a better sales manager or something like that. These are the conversations that matter. And that's the stuff that's what gets me going.
I love that. It's like, for me, when I was going through this process with you, and I was like, you know what, it's like, it's almost like you do it automatically, but when you put words behind it, it makes it more real, and it allows you to almost maneuver around your life in a different way. You start to
Yeah.
make decisions based on the purpose that you've discovered, and that you've been able to put words behind, and you're like, hey, does that fit into my purpose? Does that make sense? And that was, I think, the biggest shift for me, was getting clarity around that, so that it helped me kind of make my decisions and shift my life. And it kind of induces almost like a different identity in a way, because I know that you went through kind of an identity shift as well around this time, and specifically around the dance studio. I'm curious, could you tell people about that a little bit?
Totally. Yeah. My identity after meeting Stephanie, and after doing this now for 23 of my years, 29 for her, my identity was definitely tied with the dance studio. I was known as the dance guy. My business card, for example, it said my name, Lee Prosenjak, and then my title was the guy that does everything but teach dance. And it was like a totally remarkable thing. Like it's on my business card. I sign off my emails like that. Everybody like comments on it. Oh my gosh, that's the best title I've ever seen. I'm like, it's the truth. It's what I do, right? Like it's one of those things that I do each and every day. And there was a day that I was sitting there, and this person came in. They wanted to buy some ballet and tap shoes, and it was a random person off the street. I couldn't even describe this person to you if you asked me to today. I can tell you that it was a middle-aged lady. Like that's about all the detail I have about this person. And so, I sell ballet and tap shoes every day, right? Like multiple times a day to lots of different people. I can fit them in my sleep, right? I can size someone's foot from across the room, which is a fun party trick, but also looks a little creepy sometimes. So like I've got like this lady comes in, hey, I need ballet and tap shoes. Great. I fit the kid for those. And I'm walking back around the counter and I said, that's going to be $39.86. And that's a number that's like ingrained in my brain. That's the price of ballet and tap shoes with tax already included, right? Like I know it by heart. And she said, wow, that's amazing. I said, what's amazing? She said that you know the price of those. And I didn't want to be like, hey, lady, you're not that special, right? Like that I sell these shoes all the time. And so I just said, well, wouldn't you be upset if I wasn't good at my job? She goes, I guess so. It's kind of a shame that you just work at a dance studio. And that really was a very cutting comment. And she immediately backpedaled, like, oh, I didn't mean to. And I'm like, no, it's okay. Great, no problem, because the customer's always right. And so I rang up, I swiped her credit card, and I kind of went, oh my gosh, that one sucked. I just work at a dance studio. Is that right? And because to me, it was like the most noble thing I could possibly do at that time, to inspire this art to continue and to inspire this random kid that I've never met, probably have never seen again or anything like that. I'm sure that person doesn't remember that conversation or that that interaction or anything like that. If you do and you're listening to this podcast, let's have a chat, because we can talk about that later. But that was it was a very impactful day to me. And I didn't go out and say, well, I'm not going to be just a dance guy anymore. But it really said, I think I'm playing a little bit small here. I think there are some other ways that I can go and inspire people and go and make more of this and keep doing what we're doing here. Keep this purpose going here at Cherry Creek Dance. And what else is there? What else can we do? And so that was a pretty awesome experience, actually. So it seemed like something that might have been a bad thing, but it was really kind of a liberating experience. And I separated a lot from that identity, from that job, the guy that does everything but teach dance. And I made it more about me and that purpose. And all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, I'm an artist. That's very different. And so I spend my days creating art, and that art just looks different each and every day. So some days that is fitting ballet and tap shoes, or inspiring a brand new 2-year-old to get into class, or inspiring that adult that comes in and says, I haven't danced in like 1,000 years. I'm going to be so bad, and this is going to look so funky, and I'm not sure I want to be here. And I'm like, you got this. I can't wait to see you. And let's talk after class, because I think you're going to have a whole different opinion all of a sudden. And it's probably going to hurt a little bit because you're going to be a little bit sore, but like, it's going to be a great thing. And other days that means I get to work with a group of CEOs, or I can talk to somebody one-on-one, and all those things are equally as artistic to me. It just looks very different each and every day.
Yeah. So just by taking your kind of the things you were already doing internally, and you were able to put it into words,
Mm-hmm.
now it takes a different form anywhere in your life, essentially, which is the magic behind discovering that purpose. And I think it helped me as well, because I always had this, and mine is to lead with creativity so that we can make a difference together. And so I always had this like creative energy inside of me. And I was like, I always thought that I should be like a graphic designer or something like that. Was just something I always like. I could do it forever. I could do it for hours, but I could also like edit videos for hours. Like I loved doing stuff like that. And that all kind of, it fed me in that way, that it gave me like this, like I just loved doing it, but I always thought, I was like, I don't know how to make money doing this, or is it really, should I go be a, I was even at one point I was a intern for MTV because I thought I wanted to be in entertainment, because that was creating, it was feeding that art side of me, the creative part of me. So, but I chose the path of real estate, which there's been different forms of that. So when I brought this out, let's say, I brought out that, to lead with creativity. Well, there's so many different creative ways that I can apply that muscle into real estate that
Mm-hmm.
serves that purpose, that serves, the industry, that every time it pops up, I'm like, oh, there it is again, but
Mm-hmm.
it's structuring debt instead. I love being creative in how I structure debt, or I love being leading with creativity in how I construct our renovations, the paint colors that we use, whatever it is.
Mm.
And I don't feel guilty about the fact that I'm not doing graphic design.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's like one of those. And so you kind of did something similar, and you shifted away. You're like, listen, that the um, the whole dance thing, that's amazing, but there's other versions of this that
Mm-hmm.
exist. And let's see where else we can apply it, to the point where now you've done things like invest in properties
Mm-hmm.
um, in Denver, right?
Yeah. I have some in Denver, some in Ohio, and most recently invested into a project in the Bahamas.
So Lee is now a major owner in a hotel in the Bahamas. So at some point, Lee, you decided to go, and you got here because you made a decision one day
Yeah.
to start living a financially free lifestyle. Essentially, you're
Yeah.
like I don't know a ton of people that have done this, but you one day you're like, you know what? I want to go live in the Bahamas. I'm gonna go do it. I'm
Yeah.
gonna reside there. How did that happen? What came from that?
It's a really fun story. And I was working with a group of CEOs, and this one person had this like horrible like nightmare experience with, they were building a house for themselves, and they put their house on the market, and it was a hot market, so it sold like too quick. And then they were like, oh my gosh, we're not going to live for the, and then on top of it, like the buyers said, like, we'll give you an extra 50 grand if you can be out like in like a week or something like that. And they're like, sold, we'll do it. And so they like got out, and they're like months from having their house complete. And then so they're trying to find something to go into, like temporary housing. This is a long time ago. And so they got into some temporary housing somehow, something. And then like the builder like went belly up and couldn't like complete the project. And so like they couldn't wait for that to get done. And so they rented an Airbnb, which this was early days of Airbnb. And so they're like, oh my gosh. So they did this, they rented that for like a month. And then one of their friends was going to be out of town for like a month. So they went and house sat for their friend for like a month. And then they got another Airbnb, and they were trying to get, a home. And all of a sudden they said, well, we can like, really, we can work from anywhere. We can do whatever. And basically we need the clothes that are in the trunk of our cars. It was a young couple. And they said, we need the clothes that are in the back of our cars. And then we need something with strong internet, basically. And then we could be anywhere. And they sort of like this idea of moving around town into these different Airbnbs, because they got to explore a different area of town, and they got different restaurants, and there's a different walking pattern, and a different way to, they didn't have a physical office anymore. So like this kind of cool. And they said, I can be anywhere. So we decided they went to Bali for a month, and they're like, cool. And it was less money for them to live in Bali than it was for them to live in the US for that month. And they didn't have anything to, they didn't have a storage unit to pay or any of that sort of crap. They parked their cars with their clothes in it in their friends' garage or driveways and stuff for a month, and they'd go travel around. And when they talked about that, like it was less expensive to be gone for a month than it was to live in the US for a month, it really got me thinking. And I went home, and then here I go with Stephanie again, and I'm scribbling out notes. She's like, what are you thinking about now? And I said, do you realize that it costs us $250 a night to live in our home? And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, here's the mortgage, and we got the internet bill, and we've got the landscaping person, and we've got the cleaning person, and we've got just insurance and taxes and all this stuff. And I said, it's $250 a night to live in our home. I said, what kind of hotel could we get for $250 a night? I'm pretty sure that the JW Marriott would be like happy to have us and give us every 10th night free or something like that. It could be less expensive to go live in a hotel. And Stephanie's like, yeah, but we need a house, so we're not moving into a hotel today. And I said, all right, well, let's think about that, and how can that play into our long-term strategy? So what can we do where we can, go live in this place that's awesome, and then be able to either rent that house or figure out how we don't have to be driven by the money part of it, that we can actually do some other things instead that make and show up that, where that money can show up in different ways, and it doesn't have to be beholden to that one place. And I suppose I'm a pretty sentimental person too, so that was kind of hard. So during COVID, we moved out of our house of 19 years and got an apartment in Denver instead, and made the move to the Bahamas, because why not? And if all my sessions and things like that, all of a sudden we're on Zoom, and I said, well, I can Zoom from anywhere, might as well Zoom from here. And so Bahamas it was. So it's been our rally cry since we got married on the beach, this tiny little island called Harbor Island. We got married on the beach there 16 and a half years ago. And it's been our rally cry to, let's buy the house that we got married at. I'm not there yet,
Wow.
but I'm getting closer. And that's been that North Star that I've been guiding towards for at least 16 and a half years. It's actually been slightly longer than that, but that's been the rally cry for 16 and a half years.
Wow. That's amazing. And so you get down to the Bahamas, and then you have this opportunity to buy a hotel. You're like, well, I think I'm going to buy a hotel while I'm here. How did that come about? Like, how'd you get in front of that?
How many guests have you had on your podcast, Garrett, that have said like, no, I was a lighting person for rock concerts and theater shows, and then I owned a dance studio, and now I own a hotel.
That's why you're here, Lee.
It's the natural progression, isn't it? Isn't that the way isn't that how that always goes, right?
Yeah.
What's interesting is that there have been so many times in my life that I've just been like, I'm in the right room today. And this was another case of right place, right time. And here's what happened. Like it just kind of happened, and it kind of fell into it. And I talked about it. It was a place that was had some bad history of operations. And so I was talking to one of the owners, one of the shareholders, about what, here's what I think it takes to clean this up and to get it into a better spot, sort of thing. And then I said, hey, I'm not looking for a free ride here. Why don't you let me put my money where my mouth is and let me invest into the project? And I didn't hear anything for months on end. And then all of a sudden, at the end of the year, right before the close of the year, they said, one of our investors wants out. Do you still want in? And I said, yeah, let's go. And so I invested into it. And then I bought more, and I bought more, and I bought more. And so that's just kind of the way that it sort of happened. And it to me, I mean, it doesn't really matter to if I'm selling tap shoes or if I'm selling room nights. All of a sudden, the idea there is the art that I'm creating is all those just magical memories that we can create and have it's a blank canvas. And so I'm constantly talking to guests and just saying like, what'd you do today? Or where'd you go to eat? Or what was the thing? Or how what was your experience like? And even some of our friends that have come down and hung out with me there, they're like, this was like the best day of my life. And I say, fantastic. That's what I'm hoping to create. So it's a different set of memories than when you're at dance class or any of those CEOs that I work with in between, or any, right? Like that's what I'm hoping to just sort of, and it's really not me that does it, right? It's a combination of the environment and their open-mindedness and their experiences that they're having that day. So if they go out swimming with sea turtles or something like that, and that they're just open to like, wow, that was an amazing experience. And maybe that's something I'll never be able to get to do again or something. And I just call that a Tuesday afternoon. Like that's what I want to do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And guys, for some of you guys out there that own apartment complexes, I don't think you realize that, you know, even the stuff that you do on the capital improvements, or the way when you're buying these businesses and you're investing into them, you can make a big impact on people's lives and their day to day. You have people living there that they're trusting in you to create a good environment for them, and the money is almost a byproduct. If you create this
Yeah.
experience for people and they want to live by you, and they want to enjoy that as their home, you create that. You're in control of that. And you know, Lee stepped into an environment that maybe didn't have enough of that, and was able to kind of create that spark for people and create those memories. And it all goes back to his purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So the purpose that he was able to understand and put on paper and really put words to, now shows up in different forms
Mm-hmm.
in his life in different ways, and still provides the same amount of fulfillment. And so I challenge you guys to try to understand what that is for in your life. You know, what is your purpose and what's behind it? Why do you do the things that you do? Why do you get up in the morning? What when you do those things, why? And you know, it's just knowing Lee, and I guess the short amount of time that we've known each other, but known him for
Feels
years.
like
Known him for
forever.
years.
Feels like forever.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
feels like forever. Uh, you know, that was one of the big gifts that he was able to give to me, was to help me get to understand that for myself. So guys, Lee's an incredible individual, and one of my favorite people in the world. Lee, if people want to get a hold of you, where can they find you?
Oh, well, typically they'll find me on a boat, one of my friends' boats. Like that's my whole, I think, like every day I'm like, how am I going to get on a boat today?
What boat are you
Right?
on?
Yeah, exactly.